All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is an exciting day. I'm so glad that you guys are here. It's great to be a part of, not just being a part of history is a great thing, because that means we're living. But we're a part of an elevated history here in St. George that some have wondered would ever come to pass. And so I believe that today this is a great launch point. Before I go any further, we'll answer some questions at the end of this time together. But there are some folks that I want to introduce and participate as we go along the way. First of all, I just want to thank Senator Bodie White for being here today. He is my friend, and we're co-worker, labor. I invited Bodie. He didn't hesitate. He loves the area of all the areas he represented for so many years, and I had the privilege of working with him for 10 of those years, so it was a great privilege. Also, my colleague, Representative Barbara Freiberg, who we worked together and served. Thank you, Representative Freiberg, for being here today. We're grateful for your good work. Chief, thank you as well for hosting us. You're always a great host, and we're grateful. Landmark legislation only comes a couple of times in a lifetime, and this is landmark legislation. Just think with me for a moment of the obstacles that the city of St. George has had to go through. In fact, really it started before there was a city of St. George. There was just an idea that was a dream. And that dream was to have an independent or a community school district here in St. George. And when that failed, or that idea was not sort of recognized, people said, well, go form yourself a city. And so, over the past about 15 years, even that dream has become a reality. It took 2 petitions, a drive that was unparalleled to anything that's hardly happened in our state. First time around, there was a handful of particular constituents that didn't make the ballot there or didn't make the petition. And so you'd think that'd be the end of the story, but it wasn't. That group of people had to start over, and they did. They started over and required themselves to go back out, door to door, in neighborhoods, grocery stores, and they started forming a city. That was not enough. When they finally got and oh, by the way, we were a part of that process, Senator White and I, as we looked up and saw that there was multiple things we could do to assist. And so watch what happened. They got all the necessary people on the petition. Well, now it has to go through the process. Ultimately, what occurred is that time Governor John Bel Edwards signed that they had followed all the processes. Well, you'd think that was good enough, but it wasn't good enough. What happened then is then the courtrooms began to unfold. In fact, I think I made every one of those. And we watched as it went one after another, and people predicted that the city of St. George would never occur. Finally, lo and behold, the city of St. George became a reality after a judgment from the Louisiana State Supreme Court. Now watch again. Then we followed the law that we created. A mayor was appointed, a city council was appointed, and they have been acting, doing the groundwork. And now today we take the next step, which is actually the first breath that the city of St. George residents made. We just want a community school district. I'm proud today to say that along with my co-author, Representative Emily Chenevere, that we have begun the process of getting prepared the St. George Community School District. This reality will bring about some things that are transparent and that are collaborative with East Baton Rouge Parish School System. I'm excited today to tell you there are going to be multiple things that will be accomplished. First of all, people ask about the geographical boundaries. In the bill, we will take now what is officially the St. George geographical boundaries. And so any resident that lives there will form that school district. It wasn't clear back several years ago when Senator White offered that particular bill. Now it is very clear, and we'll follow that. Also, when we begin to look, there will be a formation of a board and a superintendent or manager, and we will begin all of those processes found in the bill. Also, as we look at legacy costs, people wonder, what will we do? Well, all contained in the bill. We will be working with East Baton Rouge, and actuarially we will be sound in taking a look at what it takes for all our retired folks and other issues as it relates to the fiscal responsibility of both St. George, this new community school district, and what will occur with East Baton Rouge School Board. I'm also proud today to announce that we've already had some wonderful meetings with the superintendent of East Baton Rouge Parish, and we are working together that we will deal with charter schools. And what we will do to say that a charter school or a student that's in a charter school in either East Baton Rouge Parish or in St. George, they will continue. There will be we expect a cooperative agreement with East Baton Rouge Parish to deal with charter schools, so no child will be left behind on that issue. How about magnets? People were so worried about magnet program. Well, I'm here today to tell you I believe this bill contains the greatest opportunity for a non-adversary relationship. I think we're going to have a great relationship with East Baton Rouge Parish. You know, we're all about the students, the parents, and their choices to try to help them because, look, I put it in my terms, they're our babies. They're the ones we love the most. We care about them. We believe they're fearfully and wonderfully made, and we'll make certain that they have the greatest education that we can possibly provide them, and we'll work with our folks in East Baton Rouge Parish that have those same goals and values, and we'll work together to do that with our magnet program. I had this question asked, what about a student that is not enrolled in a magnet program outside of what will be the St. George Community School District? Well, this bill contains they'll have the opportunity, once we agree, they'll have the opportunity to go to that same magnet program, wherever it is in East Baton Rouge Parish. So we're working on all of those issues to try to make certain we get all of those things contained in this particular bill. It's going to be a good process. Let me just give you legislatively what has to occur. Number one, we have to have the content of the bill, which covers all these things that I'm mentioning. That bill will come out, and I will introduce it into the Senate Education Committee as we go into session on April 14th. So sometime after April 14th, we'll have our beginnings, and it will launch in the Senate Education Committee. Part two is we have to have a constitutional amendment. That constitutional amendment will go on the ballot. The earliest it would more than likely go on the ballot will be November of 2026. November of 2025, this year. That means statewide, people will have to approve this, and East Baton Rouge Parish as well. So both of those instruments will be introduced in the next few weeks. We're going to give several opportunities for people to work on that with East Baton Rouge Parish school board members, our superintendent, members here in St. George, and today I'm also saying that we're already started that process. You will hear now from a good friend of mine who I've worked with for the past decade. Mayor Yates is doing a great job in launching the city of St. George, and he knows that one of the heartfelt moves, and Jim, you reminded me at the doorway to say, history is being made today as we launch. And so Mayor Yates is all about hearing what the public is pleading for. I was going to use the word begging because basically they've been after this for 15 years. And so I am glad to tell you today we already have, in unison, a core of people that are willing to help us do the hard work to get these bills passed and to move forward so that the people of St. George can be happy about a new city and a new community school district. So without any further explanation, let me introduce my friend and your friend, Mayor Dustin Yates. Mayor?
So I won't rehash the entire history, but I think some of it is significant as we stand here with you today. 2012, state legislature told a group of concerned residents in this area that they couldn't have a school system. 2013, same state legislature told the same group of concerned citizens that they couldn't have a school system. One particular legislator at that time, former state senator Sharon Western Broom, made the comment, now famous comment, I guess, was that in order for you to have your own school system, you have to create a city. As I stand here before you today, I can't imagine that her or anybody else that was in that room today would ever imagine that we're here before you today. After accomplishing one of the greatest feats, really, in the state involving a municipal incorporation. As Senator Edmonds reflected upon, the first petition process beginning in 2013, 2 petition processes, getting this city initiative to a vote passing, spending 5 years in litigation, only for the Supreme Court to finally overturn it and say, City of St. George, go forth and prosper. From that day moving forward, there hasn't been one day that I haven't had a conversation with a resident of St. George about our school system. I can honestly tell you today I've had 5 conversations today with nobody in this room, just on that simple fact. When are we going to get control of our schools? When is this process going to begin? And that's why we're having this press conference with you today. They told us that the city was a pipe dream. It was never going to happen. Too much of an uphill battle. We accomplished it. We did what we needed to do, and we got the ball across the line. And today's the first step in the process of doing the first thing we ever promised when we created that initiative to create a city, and that's to create a school system. The process starts legislatively. This was the quickest it could have happened. Okay? When we were appointed mayor and council, that was in May and June of last year, legislative session was just wrapping up. This was the soonest that this could have happened. So it was paramount importance to us as we were standing up our city, and are still standing up our city, is to start engaging partners in the legislature, start collaboratively working with people within the East Baton Rouge Parish school system, to start laying that groundwork so we were prepared for this upcoming legislative session. I'm excited. I'm excited not just because we're in the infancy and the building part of our city. I'm not, not that I'm not excited about creating a school system, but what the thing is that excites me the most is that for the first time in a long time, we're going to put our kids first. We're going to put our priorities where they need to be. I say it all the time. We should always, as governmental officials, always be planning for the future. And there's no better place to plan for the future of our city, of our parish, of our state, of our country than great education. And that's exactly what we plan on proposing, and that's exactly what we plan on executing. At this time, I'll turn it over to Representative Emily Chenevier, who's also been working with us hand in hand in developing this legislation, and she will take it from here. Thank you, Rep.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to speak from the heart from a little bit. I'm not going to go over what we've already talked about today, but it is a great day. And as you were saying, is that, and all of my colleagues are here, I know we can all say that it's about the children and it's about the families in the city of St. George. And so for me, as a mom and as someone who, when I ran for office, it was this whole idea of a mom on a mission. And it's wanting to make sure when I talk to other moms and I talk to families about their kids in school and what matters to them. It's like, it matters to me. And so I love what Senator Edmonds said, is we were talking about how we're going to work through this legislation and what our focus is going to be. It's going to be about the children. It's going to be about where they are in school and what do parents want and what is our school board members, what is their ideas. And so what do our constituents want in the city of St. George? And that's our heart. I know that's my heart as a mom. And so, as a legislator, I get the opportunity to work with all of the members because it takes more than one vote. And so I get to build bridges and work hard to make sure that we get this legislation passed all the way to the governor's desk. And I know that my colleague on the Senate side, Senator Rick Evans, he's going to do an incredible job in leading the way in that. So I'm very excited today. I love collaboration. I love hard conversations. I'm here for it. I enjoy sitting around the table and hearing ideas, and that's what this is going to take of all of us working together. So this is a great day, and I'm excited about the future for our kids and our families in the city of St. George. So now I'm going to invite my colleague, Ms. Patty Cook, if she wants to come up and speak as well. Go ahead.
This is a great day in St. George, Louisiana. So many of us thought we'd never see this day come. I have been in this from the very beginning, 14 long years. We started out as local schools for local children. Thank you, Bodie White, for all of your hard work. And here we are. I mean, this is the second greatest day, because the first greatest day was last April 26, when they ruled in favor of St. George. We created our city. Second greatest day is today. Thank you both for all of your hard work, for everything that it takes to get here, for the work that's ahead of us. We have a lot of work left to do altogether. But I know from speaking for me, for all the parents, for the volunteers that got involved 14 years, 10 years ago, 7, however long it's been, most of us got involved for the school system. That is what we started out doing. And to see this come about is just, it's incredible. It's hard to believe it's actually happening now. Now, a lot of us, our kids are grown. Some of them are gone. Some of them have moved out of state for better jobs, better schools, better opportunities. My hope is that maybe some of them will come back, and maybe we can keep our families here. So what we're building is for our future. You know, this is the future of St. George. We've created our city. Now we're going to work on our school system together. On behalf of a lot of the volunteers that have put in blood, sweat, and tears for many, many years, thank you. Thank you so much. This is a great day in St. George. I appreciate it. I feel like a kid on Christmas. I told you that the other day. This is wonderful for us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Before we answer any questions, let me remind us of a couple other things that I failed to mention. That the reason we're doing a constitutional amendment, by the way, is because we're in line with what it will activate out of Article 8 of Section 13, I believe that is, of what has to occur in order to form a school district. So we'll be complying with Louisiana state law and Constitution. The other thing is that I think that we need to make certain of is that the money will follow the child as well. And you need to be real clear about this, because there's really three pots of money of how a public or public charter school is funded. One is through the state dollars that we call MFP. The other is through a local initiative, and all of those are different with every parish, some higher, some lower. If it's an ad valorem tax, for example, that may not be the same in East Baton Rouge Parish as it is in Bogalusa or Caddo or Ouachita. You know, every local decides what they're able to pay and what the public passes or fails. So if a child goes back to East Baton Rouge and stays in a magnet program there or another charter, those dollars, both local and MFP, will follow that child. We'll have that sharing agreement. So that clears up any what might be difficulty, because, you know, a lot of times around the finance, we have to make certain that our schools are fiscally responsible and paid for. So I think that pretty much covers most of those things. Here's what we'll do from here, and then I'll answer some questions. I intend to have a couple of work sessions with both the superintendent and the mayor, Representative Chenevert, probably some school board members that would like to attend, so that any confusion or any of those things that we just haven't talked about, we'll work our way through that. When these bills are introduced, here is what is the norm. They will be, this time, they will be introduced in the Senate and the Senate committee. You'll be welcome to come be a part of that discussion. And we will pass them out of the Senate committee, then it will go to the Senate floor. We hope that, of course, then to pass it off the Senate floor, and then I'll hand the baton off to Representative Chenevert, which will go through the same process on the House side, in House education, and it'll be vetted there as well. And we'll be adjusting if necessary all along the way, informing all along the way. This is an open book for the best bill we can pass for the parents, for the children of both East Baton Rouge Parish and for the city of St. George. And then it would go to the House floor. And of course, if all that's accomplished, then we'll get it to Governor Jeff Landry's desk. And I have a great feeling about that he will sign this bill into law, and I fully expect that we're going to get the job done. With that said, I'll be glad to open for any questions. Yes.
Hi, Senator Mark Jones here. Senator, you talk about this being a 15-year-long dream. You know, if lawmakers had approved this desire for an independent school system 15 years ago, would we have the city of St. George today?
Hard to answer. I know this, that Senator Bodie White at that time passed a piece of legislation of the Southeast Community School District. And the constitutional companion, I believe, did not pass. So it's hard to go back and to predict the future from the past. But I think that there was such an appetite for a community school district that might have done it. I must admit. We'll never know. With that said, we're dealing with a great situation now that we do have a city of St. George, and we will have a St. George Community School District. So all's well that ends well. Yes, ma'am.
This is approved to go on the ballot in November. What's the timeline after that? When do you expect to have a school district?
Yeah, so if, again, the tenets of the Constitution states it this way, that the primary reactions of the bill cannot be implemented unless it is constitutionally passed by the voter. So we can't do anything with the bill until after November. Let's just go forward from there. If that were to occur, or when that occurs, then the governor then will appoint the new board and leader, superintendent, manager, whatever, and then they could take their particular role for about a year. I think we have it in the bill that they could serve for 1 year during that time period, the max. So they would begin the groundwork of trying to implement with all these things that have to go involved. These are legacy costs, retirement costs, buildings, transportation plans, and we'd have to coordinate that with East Baton Rouge Parish. And that board would decide whether they were ready or they had to wait till another year. They would make that ultimate decision, along with making the decision of getting on the ballot so that we would have a permanent board or election for those things as we go forward. So that's kind of how it will unfold. I saw one over here. Yes, sir.
When do you think an actual copy of the bill will be available for the public?
Constitutional amendment will be ready probably about April 2nd or 3rd or before. And then the bill itself will probably be somewhere around the same time period, but probably no later than about the starting of session on April 14th.
And with the boundaries, you're running with the current city boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that, any potential of that changing in the course of legislation? Because previous versions have shifted
No,
too.
no, we will follow the exact, what has now been declared as the boundaries of the city of St. George. So another?
And y'all keep saying that y'all have been talking to parents and all that. What issues or concerns were y'all listening that really pushed y'all for this community school district?
Well, there are people in the room that have been involved in, I've been involved in this for about 10 years. But I know that, if you want to speak to that,
Sure,
Dustin,
I'll speak to it.
about what the climate is with parents and families.
Sure, like I previously mentioned, there's not a day that goes by that I don't talk to families regarding a community school district here in the city of St. George. Some of the overarching concerns were the fact that they didn't feel like they had viable options. They didn't have viable options, and you have a lot of families that are forced to either move out of the parish, which has happened quite a bit. The proof for that is all you have to do is go to Ascension Parish, or go to Livingston Parish, or go to Central, which is a community school system, or go to Zachary, which is a community school system, and you'll see where a lot of kids and where a lot of their parents used to live was right here, right? So there was a desire for them to call this place their home, but they didn't feel like they could adequately educate their children in the environment that they were currently in. So that was always really the motivation behind creating a school system. And then, of course, after we have seen the success of Central and seen the success of Zachary, there's no doubt that we can have the same success here, right here in St. George. So, as time has gone by, that little murmur has turned into a shout, because people see the positive effect that not only these school systems in our neighboring areas, I mean, we're literally surrounded by them, right? That all the positive effect of these school systems have not only on their children's education, but the positive effect it has on their communities.
Senator Emmons,
Yes.
a couple more bits. So you mentioned magnet schools. I think the Southeast Community District had some grandfathering, like for high school kids.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk a bit more about how that would work with the magnet school parents, and to what extent they could stay? How would that, does that require some agreement with the school system?
Yeah, so what we will do is we will come to an agreement with East Baton Rouge Parish, and we will have it in the bill.
Okay.
And our goal is, in the bill will state that if you are already a part of a magnet school in East Baton Rouge Parish and you'd like your child to continue in that magnet school, there will be already a cooperative endeavor agreement between St. George Community School System and East Baton Rouge Parish that parent doesn't have to worry about that, and the same will go for charters.
But that would be for current students when it...
And forward. We're going to go
like 5
forward.
years from now,
Sure.
one could go into Baton
If you're in the
Rouge.
first grade and you want to go to Baton Rouge High School, we'll have an agreement that says that St. George. I have a lot of kids and friends that have graduated their kids from Baton Rouge High. Super school, done a super job. But would be within the confines of East Baton Rouge Parish. We can't say what we do any other at this point, only St. George and East Baton Rouge Parish. That would be the agreement.
And how do you see this interacting with, like, LA Gator you have a lot of private school attendance in this area. There's a lot of schools, a lot of options. Will those mix well?
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any issue with that. Those aren't boundary restricted. And, oh, by the way, since you brought it up, I'm glad you opened that can. In 3 weeks, we have taken almost 25,000 applications for the Gator program. I just left with Dr. Brumley. And, oh, by the way, since we're mentioning, I'm going to ask the media to help with this. You know, we just came out with a brand-new report card, and Louisiana, for the first time, we think, in history, if not in our lifetime, is now number 32. We have risen from 49 or 50 on everything you could look at for our whole lives. I ran 10 years ago on one of the factors of trying to improve education and do everything we possibly could to support the local classroom teacher. And we are doing that in the legislature. And I am so thankful that today, again, I just left a committee meeting, and we are the most reactive school state in the country since COVID. We are advancing back and becoming past normal faster than anybody. So my challenge to the media is a lot of times with bad news, we print it over and over and over and over, but with good news, we print it once. So I'd like you to get that report card, and every now and then when you got a chance, drop it back in there. And Dr. Brumley is doing an outstanding job, and let's give credit where credit's due. And I said this in the committee meeting, and look, this didn't come from me, but when we look at leadership, when we look at how we get to a point, everything rises and falls on leadership. And we are blessed to have as good a state superintendent of education as there is in America, in Dr. Cade Brumley. And I'll stand by that. Anybody else? One more? Yes.
How does the Bessie board play into this?
So I don't know you want to drill that down a little bit more of what you're looking for?
I guess so. Do they have any part in this decision or in the constitutional amendment that's being put forth? Have you had discussions with them?
Yeah, so in the constitutional amendment, no, because it's set in the Constitution, and we have diagrammed in Section 8, Article 13, exactly what we have to follow. And the constitutional amendment, oh, by the way, is a pretty simple document. It just declares that you can form an independent school district called St. George, and it's yes or no. I mean, it's pretty simple. And you'll see that when we release it. So Bessie doesn't change that. The Board of Education doesn't change that. We don't change that. We're just following the rules in the Constitution.
Do they have any role in the transition process?
No, I don't think that they will, because I think they've already set those things of what they do in order. So we'll have cooperation with the Board of Education and with Bessie, but I don't think that they will be involved in the process. The voter will be involved in the process. House Senate will be involved in the process. East Baton Rouge Parish School Board members will be in the process. We'll invite some of the city council here in St. George to give their input. So we'll have a lot of input involved in making sure we get this bill lined up the way that we hope that it goes. One more?
So you mentioned the governor. You said you have a good feeling.
I do. I can't speak for the governor, but I tell you, our governor has taken the lead in making certain that he was not afraid of reform. Last year, we probably passed as Act 1, just happened to be that I was able to author that bill. It's called the Louisiana Gator. He so believed in that bill that it became Act 1 of last year's legislature. I may never get the privilege of authoring a bill that's Act 1. I sat at the desk with him, and he basically made it Act 1 because he thought it was that important. Later on, after we got this thing launched and passed and signed and presented, there were agencies all over the country that said last year we probably passed the best school choice bill in the nation. And we are now involved in getting it implemented and funded, and we are looking forward to it becoming, as we work with other states and making sure, but we look forward to this being just another part of pouring into students and parent. I believe in parent choice, and ESAs are all about parent choice. We want to thank you for coming this afternoon. I hope that you'll give us a great headline of saying great days in St. George and great days ahead. Thank you for being here. Congratulations, Mayor. Yes, ma'am.
Do what? See if we get some positive.
Good.